What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Gsluke here with our round 3 live stream for the US Open. We finally got that carnage we were looking for when that sun was poking out in the afternoon, and really should be a little bit of an appetizer for what we're going to see there on Saturday and Sunday. So if you like yourselves a lot of bogeys, if you like seeing players have to fight, go out there and make par, well, that's probably what we're going to see for Saturday and Sunday. So we'll go through the course. We'll talk about what I saw out there today, especially during that pivotal PM wave action, and of course, some of the differences from round 1 to round 2. First off, the atmosphere was fantastic out there today. Felt like there was at least twice as many fans out there for today compared to what we had for Thursday, and really a much more ruckus, a lot more fun crowd too. It didn't feel as corporate, didn't feel like you had a lot of those 40, 50-year-olds out there. It was a lot younger. You had people heckling the golfers, which was kind of missing there on Thursday. It didn't feel like a US Open, didn't feel like a major championship, but all of that started to turn around today. So hyped for the weekend. Love that, Jose. First off, welcome on to chat. And he says that he hit today. You're again going to have to get into the Patreon page. Hey, I couldn't blame you, right? Definitely hit again for the stream picks there. We went 1-1, right? One slip ended up going 1-1. The other one hit for us. We'll take it though. What's going on, Carl? We actually did pretty good today. Slightly positive for props, slightly negative on Showdown, but not too bad on that side though. Yeah, see, Jose's living the parlay life over there, making that money. What's going on, Mark? Ricky has the course dialed. Yeah, it seems like it, right? Even making 4 or 5 bogeys today, still, I believe, ended up with 7 birdies by the end of his round. Fantastic stuff. And I have to say, guys, everyone wants Ricky to win out there. BDR, he's clearly the fan favorite at this point. Live stats and birdie or better percentage. Sweet, dude. That's awesome. I'll definitely take a look at that because I want to see I know we don't have it set up yet, Travis, to do it by AM PM wave. We need to see if we can do that at some point. So let's see what we can do there, Travis. What's going on, Carl? What's going on, Rob? You're ready for the carnage, me too. You asked where the extra props were. Yeah, not sure, man. You were not sure, Griffin. DM me on Twitter. You're saying you got blocked from it. You shouldn't have been. That's nothing that I did on my end. So you'll have to check it out, boss. Message me on Twitter. I should be able to help you with it. Ireland says, how are you doing in week long? Okay, at this point, I had a bunch of guys miss the cut. It's not my best week for week long, but we're holding on for sure. Didn't realize how much driving accuracy matters on the course. I don't know if it does, man. The rough has kind of been brutal, but guys are hitting 9-10 fairways per round. I mean, even like guys like Wyndham Clark are hitting like 11-12 fairways. So I'm not sure I agree with you, JGA. It's, rough when you miss the fairway, but guys aren't really missing fairways. I mean, Justin Thomas, right? He went like 2 for 13 on fairways today, and that's why he shot an 82. But most players aren't running into trouble with that, right? It's the guys that are blowing up, right? The guys that are shooting 5-6 over par. Outside of that, like 80-85% of the field, I mean, even some of the most inaccurate drivers at the top of the board, right? Ricky Fowler doesn't hit many fairways, right? Wyndham Clark, not known for that. It's interesting. Yeah, we're looking like Phil Mickelson, Harley. We're asking for a calf update out here. We're pumped up, I can say that. Literally, when I was walking to the store just now, I felt like my calves were going to explode out of my legs. You got a 6 of 6 with Lowry and Reed. Well, I got to say, Max, we'll talk about the strategy here soon. I like the fact that they're going off early. You have it set up that way. You do. Perfect. That's literally perfect. Then if you get that set up and you can run the numbers, feel free to drop them down in chat or DM me on Discord. That would be huge. What do you think the highest owned player will be? We'll talk about that here in a second. Probably Rory. It might end up being Ricky Fowler. Max Homa did you today like a $5 hooker. Yeah, JT got me today. I played him for Showdown. I played a few props for JT and right, 82, 81, whatever he ended up shooting. Not great. And you sent it to me on Discord. That is money. Let's do it. Michael down there, what's going on? Rom train. Yeah, I agree with you. So we'll get into chat here in a second, guys. Don't worry, we'll be back. But let's go through what we saw out there, which was kind of like the tale of two halves, right? In the first half, there's that meme that, he got us in the first half, right? And they kind of did, right? It played easier than there on Thursday morning, this morning. I thought this course was set up way easier than it probably should have been. The pin locations were tame at the very best. And based on what the USGA said last night, they did a few interviews. One of them was with Golf Channel, with like Brandel and all of them on the Golf Channel set. And he talked about not wanting to change their strategy. They knew they were going to use the most difficult pins on Saturday and Sunday, and they knew on Thursday that it was going to be gettable. They knew that going into the round. And on Friday, they said they were going to lengthen the golf course, which they did today. They played it to its full length, but they weren't going to change up the pin locations. And that was evident. You had 4 or 5 holes that were in bowls. And just to show you the ones that they were, right? It's real easy to see from the AM wave. You had hole 3 was kind of in a bowl. I wouldn't really call that one a bullpen location, but it was definitely more gettable than most out there. Holes 8, hole 6 are always going to be easy, so they weren't necessarily in bullpen locations. But let's see, hole 15, for example, right, played 0.3 shots under par in the morning. There was a hole in 1 there today, which I wish I got to see in person. Did not. But Matty Fitz did make a hole in 1 there. Hole 10 was kind of in a bowl, right? In the morning, it played to an 18% birdie rate. Let's see. There's a few more here that have a decent bogey rate, but a good birdie rate. I can't think. I think 13 was one, right? Yeah, 13. No, 12. Sorry, it wasn't 13. It was hole number 12. You can see here, right? There was a bunch of bogeys made, but there were a lot more birdies made than what you saw for the first round. So these pin locations are just going to continue to get more difficult. This scoring average that you saw in the morning of like plus 1.4 might be slightly better tomorrow because of the guys that missed the cut, because you're cutting out some of the outlier performances. But I don't think the conditions are going to be any easier than what you saw this morning. You're going to see pin locations that are going to trick up these players. The greens, the fairways got firmer this afternoon. All of that is just going to spice in this place up. So when we take a look at the weather forecast, which Slapdick me didn't bring up Los Angeles Country Club yet, but let's zoom in on it. It's right there, right in the Beverly Hills. I'm over here in West Hollywood, by the way, if anyone's wondering where I'm at right now. Over here for Saturday's wind forecast, let's bring up the HRRR, which is supposed to be the most accurate here. They're calling for partly cloudy conditions for most of the day. The difference here is that in the morning for Thursday and Friday, they were calling for complete overcast, right? You didn't see this little, sun next to the cloud emoji there. This is calling for slightly less marine layer. If there's no marine layer tomorrow, this course will play unbelievably difficult. Now, if you look at some of the other weather forecasts, they're not as like sunshine heavy as what you see here on the HRRR. So if we click on a few of the other ones here, like this NEM model, you'll see that they're calling for slightly, I guess they're calling for the same thing now. This changed actually. So that's interesting. This ECM model, right, does have the marine layer in there till at least like 9 a.m. Then it does burn off relatively quickly. This GFS model calling for sun early. Oh, that would be wild. This one's calling for slight overcast and then sun during the afternoon hours. I think this course is going to have even more time to bake out than what we saw for today. Harder pin locations. You're going to see a scoring average of, I think, at least like 1.5 over par in the morning. Again, remember, right, we have a higher quality player now that the cut has happened. Then in the afternoon, I don't know if it's going to go the whole way up to 3 over par, but probably at least 2.5 over par. So there's likely to be an advantage between the two waves, right? There's going to be a lot of time for the course to bake out. And if we're looking at some of these wind projections too, you can see that they're calling for significant winds in the afternoon once again, right? Today you had a solid, it's a 9-10 mile an hour breeze out there. In terms of your wind gusts, it was probably in the 15 mile an hour range, which on this HRRR model is exactly what they're calling for. This NEM model, slightly lower winds being called for, but still more substantial in the afternoon than what you see in the morning. So when we get to the DFS section, when we start to talk through our strategy for the single round slate, a lot of it is going to be centered around taking the guys in the best conditions, right? But we also have to remember that those players, and I guess we'll just get to it right now, right? They're going to have better weather conditions. They're also playing worse golf, right? They're guys that are out of form. They're some of the shittier players there at the bottom of the board. We're going to have to ride that fine line. And just to give you a good example here, right? John Rahm +1. I'm taking him teeing off relatively early. And I'm also playing Scotty Scheffler. Right, Scotty Scheffler there at -5. I'm going to be in one of the last 4 or 5 groups teeing off tomorrow. The reason why I like him here is I have him at half the ownership, right, of somebody of like a Rory or Xander Schauffele down there. So we'll talk about the strategy in a more generalistic term right here. But just because there's a weather edge to be had doesn't mean I'm only playing AM guys. I guess that's what I want to point out right here. I do think it'll be advantageous, but I think it's a little bit more impactful for your 7 and 6K options. When you're trying to find somebody that can maybe spark off something, right? Go out there, shoot 4, maybe 5 under par. I think in the morning wave, maybe 3-4 under par is going to end up being a ceiling performance. You shoot a 65 out there tomorrow, I can guarantee you that players in the optimal lineup. You shoot a 67, probably, well, actually, yeah, probably 67. I can guarantee you probably also a 66 is going to get you into the optimal lineup too. So I think if you're going to try and use that weather edge, right, try and capture that shot and a half advantage, do it with your value tier options, right? These studs up top, while I do like a lot of guys teeing off early, I'm not only playing them because they're going off early, right? Brooks, ball strikes the hell out of it today, right? I like getting to him at only 11%. John Rahm, right? I know that he looked really frustrated out there today. Well, it seems like he backdoors a top 10 at every major championship, right? So I don't think that he's the worst player to get to. It's all about game theory for me. These guys that are going to be 30% owned, like a Rory, like a Xander Schauffele, the guys like a Ricky Fowler, for example, a Dustin Johnson that are getting some attention, just I know that they're playing well, right? But they're way over-owned, right? It's not like they're getting an adequate amount of ownership. Now, one thing I have to say is that in some slates, right, particularly because we only have like 65 guys, 66 guys that made the cut, a lot of these ownership numbers get condensed down, right? You had a lot of guys up top this week too that ended up missing the cut, right? Your Max Homas, your Jordan Spieths out there that didn't make the weekend. So that's just going to further condense down the ownership even more. The reason why these guys aren't 40, 50% owned is because some people are still going to take these pivots, right? So like Scotty Scheffler, right? I don't think he's the best example here, but like a John Rahm, a Brooks, a Patrick Cantlay, these guys like a Morikawa, Haddon Fitzpatrick, the guys that are going to get to those sort of players are people that are actively looking for leverage. Maybe 2-3 months ago, that would only be something like, let's say 10-15% of people playing GPPs. That number, I don't want to say it's doubled over the last year or so playing DFS, particularly on the Showdown side, but it's probably at least gone up like 1.5x. You're probably looking at like 20, maybe even 25% of the field that's going out there and playing educated game theory based DFS. Which unfortunately kind of hurts our case, right? Guys like John Rahm, right, could have been single digit owned. We could have had like a 6% owned, Brooks Koepka out there, but they're still low owned enough that I'm getting to them over their peers, right? They're still 3 times lower owned than what I have Xander Schauffele and Rory McIlroy's ownership at. And I'll say in large field, I shouldn't say large field. What I mean to say is high dollar single entry sort of contest. In those sort of builds, these quote unquote safe players, right, like a Rory, like a Xander, like a Ricky Fowler, are going to be even chalkier. So in GPPs, they might be in this mid 30% range, right, like I'm calling for. But when you're calling for those single entry kind of builds, I think you might see them closer to 45 or 50%. So just know that these ownership projections are meant for those larger field contests. And if I was playing in a single entry, those kind of builds, I think I'd try and avoid these players even more, right? If the ownership's going to polarize like that, people are going to try and play even safer, at least for this round 3 Showdown slate. I know a lot of times I talk about being okay with taking chalk and single entry, which I'd still be okay with it, right? You're not going to duplicate yourself. You can still get leverage if you take one of these chalky players. I just don't like how the ownership is piling up, right? These guys that are -8, -7, like they look really nice in a lineup, right? -10 Ricky Fowler looks pretty good in a lineup that you're going out there and building. It's just from the game theory perspective, all the slappies playing those guys are going to cause way too much ownership, right? It's just from the game theory angle, it causes problems there. One thing I'll note too is that we're not playing this at like the RBC Heritage, right? This isn't the Byron Nelson, right? Us playing round 3 Showdown. We also have to remember that this is the US Open, in that there are a lot of people that are going to be playing Saturday Showdown tomorrow that never play PGA DFS. So guys like Rory, Xander, and whatnot, I think they're still going to carry that steam because of all those uneducated folks out there, right? That aren't consuming content, that don't know what the word leverage is. What they know is that their favorite player, Rory, made the cut, or their favorite player, right, Ricky Fowler, made it to the weekend and is winning the golf tournament, and that they can play him for a round 3 Showdown. They don't know about the fact that the PM's going to play more difficult, and we don't need the galaxy brain it, is I guess what I say all of that to come to, right? is play the guys in the better conditions, mix in a few guys, right, that are maybe not so chalky towards the top. I think Scotty Scheffler's a great example of that sort of player. And you've got yourself a player pool. So a few other guys towards the middle, the top of the board that I'm playing, just I guess worth noting here. Let's see. I guess Morikawa, I wouldn't really, throw him into that, right? He's still only like even par. Let's see. There's not a ton. It's a lot of guys that are like even par or worse that I'm using. Let's see. Patrick Reed, he's 1 over par. Yeah, hopefully, by the way, and I ran these projections about 15 minutes before we went on the live stream here. Some of the scores on the left may have changed. In fact, somebody may have missed the cut on there, right? That was in the cut before. Let me double check on that for you guys, but there shouldn't have been that much movement. Let's see. Did Barjan make the cut? It looks like he did not. Parbajan ended up bogeying, so he's on the projections here. Just full disclosure, guys, he missed the cut. There were only 65 players that made the cut this year. The last player in on the number was Ryan Fox, so it's good to know that he was able to make the weekend. No one else on the sheet should be messed up, though. Let me double check the -4s. Make sure no one's there. Nope, looks like we're good to go. So Patrick Reed did make the cut. He finished at +1. I wanted to double check that one there. Alrighty, so in terms of like middle tier, lower tier options, I was trying to find guys that I was playing towards the top of the board. And right, I think the highest guys on the board that I'm playing are like a Morikawa even par. Colin Morikawa's tee time, I believe, hasn't been posted yet. I'll double check on it. No, tee times aren't live yet for round 3. But considering that he's in like 40th place at this point, tied for 30th right now. He also was one of the PM Wave guys that got in there relatively late. He's going to be teeing off at like 11 a.m., maybe like 10:40, 10:50, something like that in terms of his tee time tomorrow. And he's going to have good enough conditions, right? The guys at like -1, though, the guys at -2 that are up there in the top 20, their tee time is going to be closer to 11:45, right? Noon, when we know conditions are going to be much harder. That's why in this middle to low tier range, I think like even par is the cutoff line, right? I think 1 over par, I think would be the optimal score for a lot of the tee times I'm going after. The reason why I say that is 1 over par, right? You're a little bit closer to the top of the board, right? Even par 2, right? You're right there at even. You're going to try and grind out a score. The guys at +2, and I guess the guys at +1 too, right? They're only one shot off that number. If they start horribly tomorrow, they're going to get disinterested pretty quickly, right? They're not going to be as engaged as some of the guys there at like even par or maybe 1 under par. So that's why I'm trying to mix in guys towards the middle of the board. That's why I think like a Scotty Scheffler is a really good play out there. He's good at keeping par on the scorecard. We know that he has the iron play to set up some birdie looks even in difficult, firm, and fast conditions. So just it's not as straightforward as some of these weather edges can be. But I like early tee times, and then let's say to like middle to early tee times there until right around like 11 a.m. Local time over here. In terms of some flyer options, I want to point out to you guys, Denny McCarthy, if you wanted to take him, sorry, I'm on the wrong tab there. Sorry, I was going to say he was projecting well for nearly 36 points. That's actually Tom Kim there. Tom Kim, $7,200. I'm projecting for 35.9 points. You can see that guys teeing off earlier also have significantly higher point projections than a lot of their peers. Like a Sam Stevens, 31.74, right around, let's see, points per dollar on him's like nearly 5x. That's a really good value play down there. Patrick Reed, right, 37.02 point projection. He's really good in terms of points per dollar. Let's see, he's under 5x, but anytime you're over a 4x points per dollar when it comes to a showdown play, that's a good metric for this slate. Let's see. Cam Young, right? He projects a lot higher than his peers. A lot of that has to do with when he's teeing off. You can see Tommy Fleetwood, his ball striking metrics have been through the roof. The model really likes him for round 3 showdown. They're at 39.4 points. Just trying to show you guys some of the point projection standouts. Patrick Cantlay, believe it or not, has the 3rd highest projection on the entire slate when it comes for tomorrow. He's 0.14 points behind Scotty Scheffler. That's kind of notable. And he's right about a point less than Jon Rahm. Jon Rahm also has an early tee time, right? That's why he's the highest projected player in my projections. But Patrick Cantlay, of all people, is the guy just behind him. Not only does he have one of the first 5 groups off in terms of a tee time, but he's also been striking the ball really well to this point without really filling it up with the flat stick. So when I'm doing a showdown model, when I'm running projections for round 3, that's one of the bigger edges that I try to exploit. Speaking of, let's look at some of the stats. Let me show you some of the better ball strikers here over the first 2 rounds. So let's go to the event, and I want to sort this by shots gained approach. So if we look at this list here, right, look at Hideki Matsuyama, right? He's +1 to this point, plus 3.26 strokes on approach. Sebastian Munoz, +2, right? Going to be teeing off super early, 2.9 strokes gained on approach. Xander's been pretty good. I like the fact that Chef, right, gaining 2.6 per round. Part of the reason that I'm getting to that sort of player, let's see, Streelman hitting the ball well on approach. It's kind of surprising, right? Adam Hadwin, 2.2 strokes per round. Yuto Kasagawa plays over there on the Asian Tour. He's gaining over 2 strokes per round on approach. Good old Rory, right? Okay, chalky player. But let's look at these pivots, right? Russell Henley gaining a bunch on approach. Ryan Fox, right? Those are 2 players that I'm playing for tomorrow, both playing well on approach. Colin Morikawa, wow, huge surprise, right? Gaining a stroke and a half per round there. Cam Smith, look at that mullet, man, playing super well there. You love to see that too. These guys at +2, though, like especially Sebastian Munoz, that's also an extremely aggressive, high birdie percentage player, are standouts for me. I want to look at shots gained off the tee too. I think that's an important metric to keep an eye on over the first few days here. Let's see. Yeah, good. Making sure the stream's good down there. You've got Alejandro Del Rey, right? He missed the cut, unfortunately, so we can't play him. DeChambeau, right? He's you could take DeChambeau tomorrow. I don't think he's going to be too chalky. Hitting the ball well off the tee at the very least. Let's see, Austin Eckroat's playing well off the tee. Yeah, not as many standouts here. Maybe you play Aldrich Potgieter, right? He's a really good amateur from South Africa. But I think if you're going to look at anything here, these approach stats are probably the best. And you might want to avoid some of these really hot putters. So Patrick Rogers, right, gaining 3.7 strokes putting per round. A Wyndham Clark, a Harris English, right? I hate to say it because I really want BDR to win, guys. Ricky Fowler, right? -10. He's getting 3 strokes putting per round. Like, do we really think that's going to continue going forward? Rory, right? Justin Suh, Eric Cole, like all of these players at the top that are gaining a bunch of strokes putting, you probably didn't see them in my player pool, right? And there's a reason why. It's hard for these sort of players to continue that sort of putting performance. And if they even slightly come back down to earth, a lot of them don't have impressive ball striking, right? Let's look at Patrick Rogers. Across the board, a loser other than the putter. Obviously, Ricky winning the golf tournament looks pretty good elsewhere, but let's look at some of the other examples. Let's see, like, I guess Harry English and Clark, right, are looking pretty good. That's why they're in the top 5 at this point. But let's see, like Amito Pereira, right? He missed the cut. I mean, look at the rest of his stats. Like, they were horrible here. I think the most worrisome stat profile of these guys that are putting the ball really well right now has to be Patrick Rogers, though, right? Who's just a slight gainer with the approach play and has been pretty shit at everything else. In terms of putting lineups together for round 3, there's not that much a difference compared to what we saw yesterday. You know, if you're in a GPP, it's about trying to get some sort of leverage. If you want to take somebody like a Scotty, which I do for tomorrow, right, that's still teeing off kind of late, I don't have a problem with doing so, right? Let's throw a Cantlay in there, right? He projects really well in terms of points. Let's throw a Fleetwood in there, right? Fleetwood's one of the best points per dollar projections. Where's he at? Did I pass? There he is. He was hiding from me on the projection sheet there. Let's go ahead and throw Fleetwood in down in the 7K range. Let's find another player that is a decent value. Like, the reason why I'm doing this is to show you that you don't have to take like complete randoms to go out there and get this leverage. Let's throw Ryan Fox, right? We really liked the approach numbers that we saw for Ryan Fox down here in the 6K range. Let's find some sort of value here. I think maybe a little bit more expensive is the way to go. And we'll throw, ideally, want somebody hitting the ball well. So Sam Stevens, right, would kind of fit that description. Round it off with your favorite $6,900 golfer. And this kind of lineup, more than enough leverage, right? Guys like Cantlay, Fleetwood aren't going to be outrageous with their ownership. I would imagine that both are sub 20% in pretty much any contest that you're entering. There's just so many casuals out there. I heard a few other live streams earlier. I know Pat Mayo was live. DGen75 talked about this on his live stream too, that he thought that guys like Fleetwood, I know over there on the Pat Mayo stream, Tambo was like, everyone knows to play the morning guys. That's kind of true, right? Like kind of like I was saying before, if this was like the Bayern Nelson, I would agree. You're gonna have enough idiots out there for tomorrow that play the guys like Rory, that play the guys like Ricky Fowler out there. And these guys aren't going to be like 25% out. So if I had to guess, right, what do I have Fleetwood's actual ownership at? I have them closer to single digit ownership. That's what I would guess that most of them come in, especially like the $25 GPP. Right? If you're playing the big GPP with 100K up top for tomorrow, those sort of players are going to be your pivots. So I don't think you have to go crazy here, right? Ryan Fox, relatively low owned. Guys like Sam Stevens are going to be at least timid in terms of ownership. They're not going to be crazy. You can get away with that sort of lineup, no problems. In cash, I want to take almost all AM guys. So I know we can take some chalk and cash. You can do that if you'd like to. But what I like more is just trying to take the guys with the best projections. So in terms of points per dollar, right? This is where I would still play Cantlay, right? I know he's not going to be, super chalky. I know he's not playing the best golf right now, but we know he's cheaper than he probably should be. And he's also getting some of the better conditions. You throw Fleetwood in there, right? These are guys that we had in our GPP lineup. It doesn't look all that much different because, right, we're trying to play that advantage for our GPP lineups. And I think in cash, right, it's all about that median projection. We should be taking those same sort of players. So like if you want to throw a Lowry in there because he's relatively consistent, if you want to throw a Fitz in there, maybe a Terrell Hatton because of some of his recent form, I have no problem in the cash kind of format with just maybe starting in the 9K range, taking all guys that are maybe +1 or worse, and building your lineup that way. So I actually might play some cash tomorrow. My main slate lineups didn't go all that great this week. So I am going to play Showdown a little bit heavier for Saturday than I maybe would otherwise. And cash may be a part of that for like a once in a blue moon. I usually don't play cash when it comes to Showdown out there, but considering all the slapdicks, considering all the casuals that are going to be out there, I think I might have to dabble into it. And the way I'm going to do it, by the way, you guys can tail this if you want to. You can even join the contest that I'm entering. I really don't care. I'm going after the largest field cash contest. So I could try and get as many of those idiots in the contest as humanly possible, right? I don't want to be doing like a high dollar, like 10 entry kind of cash contest where I'm probably playing against 9 other sharks, right? If I'm playing for the US Open Showdown, I want as many idiots in my contest as possible. So I know contest selection is a huge thing for a lot of people out there, right? Trying to maybe go after smaller field stuff. I'm the opposite tomorrow. I want the largest field contest possible, whether it's for cash, whether it's for GPPs, because if we get into some of those lotto contests, you're going to get a lot of lineups that are just dead from the very start. So that's the way that I'm taking this. That's why I'm actually going to play this slate a little bit heavier than I do for most of these Showdown slates, because I see a massive edge because of a lot of the casuals that should be playing this week. Let's go over to the live chat, see what's going on down there, and then hop over to the prop side afterwards and see if we can make it a third day in a row with some profit. Where are we at? Got to catch up on chats. Where are we at? What's going on, Marco? This is JT's worst season he's had since he was new on tour, I'd say. Yeah, but don't be surprised if he goes out there and wins a golf tournament this year, man. He's too good a player to be held down for too long. The shots gained metrics haven't even been all that bad of late. I saw a few people that were completely trashing him for his game, and I disagree with that. Calling him broken, saying that he's like never going to be the same sort of player. I just vehemently disagree with that. I don't think that's really his sort of game out there. Let's see. Did we get any props posted on Underdog yet? Any posted on Prize Picks? No, we're still going to go over some brainstorming though. So don't worry, guys. We'll still go through what I'm going to be doing later on. But yeah, JT though, getting back to your question there, Marco, worst season that he's had. He might not be a fixture in the playoffs this year, but if we start to get just some ridiculous outright numbers on him, I'll very likely be sprinkling that every single week. He'll come through at some point. Brian says 136 in the main showdown, only 3 entries, close but not close enough. Hey, if you're taking 136 in the main showdown with only 3 entries, you should be pretty thrilled about that, Brian. You're playing against 20,000 other people. You definitely profited on the slate if you took down number 136. I wouldn't scoff over that if I were you, Brian. That's way better than most people are out there doing, right? You got to remember, DFS is like a 10 to sometimes 20% rate kind of contest. And then it's so top heavy in those contests, like sometimes 30, 35% to first place. You're breaking even on a showdown slate, only entering 3 lineups. That's excellent. In fact, I don't know why you're pissed off about that. What's going on, Mark? Yeah, I will absolutely check that out. You have a feeling props might be a little bit hard on the weekend. We'll have to see how they price it, right? It depends on the lines makers. It all comes down to where they post their projections, right? It could be easy, could be very difficult for all we know. What's going on, Justin? You thought it would be 8 to 10 under going on to the weekend. You said 10 to 12 under. So I suppose we were both right. But did we think it'd be hanging over that the last 36? Yeah, no, I didn't, right, Jack? Like I thought that conditions might be pretty easy all day today. If that was the case, they probably would have broken my 12 under par, right? Ricky Fowler, if he wasn't making all those bogeys today, he could be 16, 17 under par at this point. So yeah, we're both right. I think it was because we got the tail of both halves, right? We had the easy conditions early, then there's hard conditions late. That's just how the golf gods work, right? They can't give either of us the victory there. Sam Bennett tomorrow, I think he's a little chalky, Sam. It kind of feels like you're chasing if you're taking Sam Bennett for tomorrow because he's had the good 2 first rounds, or he's up there in contention at this point. I think if you have him for your 4-round contest, you feel pretty happy about it heading into the weekend. He's not, at least for me, he's not my favorite showdown play tomorrow. I just feel like he's going to get some ownership. What do I think's wrong with JT? Who knows? It could be injury. It could just be him having a bad week. Golf's, like I said, it's a 4-letter word for a reason. Guys have really shitty rounds. They can be projecting the best. They can have the best course history at any track and completely fumble the bag. That's just how it works. If you've played golf before, and I'm sure most of you guys in the chat have, you know how that works. So I would assume he's probably just had a bad day. I really don't think there's much more of an explanation than that. Then he just had a really bad day, but he, might be injured. He might come out that he had a nagging little sore wrist or something here in a week. Golfers love to make excuses. Clark, English, Fowler, Sutton, Im are going to run the core 4 back. Okay, interesting. 53 watching at 13 likes. What are you doing? That's right, guys. Get those numbers up. Those are weak numbers out there. And this isn't a weak stream. You go down there, hit that like button. Homa killed you in week long, then Spieth killed the other one. Yeah, you had 2 lineups, dude? That's how PGA DFS works, my man. Yeah, I had both myself, so I'm right there with you. How was the golf course today? Love the video. Yeah, appreciate that, by the way, the kind words there. Golf course was a lot more active today. A lot more people were out there for today's action, but not a huge difference, right? Especially early on, it played nearly the same. The pins were pretty easy like we saw for Thursday. The really only difference from playability was the sun coming out, right? The winds kicking up in the afternoon, which I think is what we're going to see going forward. Hoagie doubled at 18 to miss the cut. Oh, that is such a Hoagie thing to do. I didn't notice that, by the way. Single entry showdown tomorrow. Any help? Play it like a GPP. That's my strategy, Mark. I think a lot of those really chalky players are going to be mega chalky in those single entries. Like Ricky, Rory, Xander Schauffele, like those are the main 3. You could throw Wyndham Clark in there too. You could throw Harris English into that same conversation. They're going to be just ridiculously high owned. So I think in those contests, your single entry, avoid those 5 and build a lineup. That's what I would do. McCarthy birdie at the last 1 showdowns for the winner. That's pretty sweet. Good for them. Hit the like button. That's right, boys. How do you get an invite to the Discord? You DM me on Patreon. Cheapest guy in your player pool? It's a good question. It is Sergio Garcia, $6,800. But there's also another guy at $6,800 I'm playing, Sam Stevens. So there's those 2. Cam Young, Munoz, or Kim and Henley. I like the first one because of the upside, Max. Tom Kim, Henley, decent plays themselves, but Cam Young and Munoz are absolute madmen. And for Showdown, or at least if we're in the GPP, right? I'm playing all the big field stuff tomorrow, right? I want all the idiots in my contest. I want high upside guys that can get me to the top, and it would be that first combo. Do I like BDR not to pull out? See me not to win the golf tournament? I mean, frankly, he's probably not going to win, right? I mean, let's be honest about it. I love Ricky. He's maybe my favorite player on tour. He's never won a major before, and guys that are leading after 2 rounds in a major hardly ever close it out. So, yeah, I hope I'm wrong. I hope he wins. Boards still haven't dropped. Yep. Where did I eat last night or tonight? So tonight, I'm not sure yet, Mark. Definitely going out. Might go to Craig's, which is kind of like an Italian / steakhouse down the road. Last night I had pizza at home. I was exhausted. I was tired. I didn't have the energy to go out. If you guys couldn't tell on the stream yesterday, I put literally the last bit scraped of energy that I had into that. Today, feeling much better though. JT at the Rocket Mortgage Classic, yeah, literally, he's gonna snap out of it and win an event by like 5 strokes. And the people that are dragging his name, like saying that he's like dog shit, wasting Bones time and that sort of stuff at this point, are high, are on drugs. Just literally react to like a 2-week sample size. So yeah, Harley, I'm assuming you saw that down in the Discord and probably rolled your eyes. But yeah, he's probably gonna win an event like that. Wouldn't surprise me if he popped off, he won at a course that like doesn't fit his game either, just like some random ass place. Why does DK have contest locking at 5 Central? It's a good question. The interns probably hit the bars a little bit early, forgot to change it. Any tips to stay profitable on props consistently? Spread out exposure and play more 2-mans. That would be my advice to you, Carson. I've done that over the last few months. And I think out of the last 30 days, I'm going to have to check my results, check my picket. I think I've had 2 losing days out of the last month. And one of them was yesterday. It was a slightly losing day because of my underdog stuff. And then 2 weeks ago, it was like, I think Friday, we lost a little bit of money. If you spread out your stuff and you take a lot of 2-mans and you don't overexpose yourself on any one prop, if you know what you're doing, you're hitting at I believe the metric is a 57.1% rate. You're going to just be printing money going forward. Over there on the Discord, I do track all of my results. Usually our running hit rate is in the 61 to 62% rate for any given 2 to 3 week stretch. That's how you stay profitable on props, right? You're not going out there, you're not hitting 80% on props for any given slate. It's being over the threshold, right? And then just pumping out 2-mans. It's volume, right? It's going out there and giving yourself a bunch of bullets with plus EV plays, which is essentially what I do. Yeah, mix and match 2-mans, exactly. Less lottos, because it's not like the lottos are less in terms of EV. Like there's a lot of analysis that'll say like a 5-man flex on Prize Picks is like one of the better props that you can do, right? Especially because you get a little bit of money back for a 3 out of 5. But you have to have so much volume and you have to be able to take such big swings to take on those 4 or 5-man cards that it makes it unrealistic, right? Because all of those people that are running simulations or running the EV of like 4 or 5-man cards are doing it under ideal circumstances, right? Assuming that you're using, 1% bankroll bets, right? That you're not betting irresponsibly. And frankly, I'm not going to drag anyone's name out there. Most of you guys out there that are betting aren't betting like that, right? Aren't using Kelly criterion to go out there and select your unit size, right? You just kind of bet what you feel like on bets. That's why 2-mans are better, because they limit you. They don't open up the range of outcomes like you see on 4 or 5 leg cards. And it helps you out from like the psychology perspective. Like legitimately, the main reason that these sports books, these DFS sites make so much money are because of people chasing profits or chasing losses, right? Entering 4 or 5-man cards. That's what you need to stay away from. Good result, but after Ricky birdied the first 3, he was the only guy you had left. You thought you could get top 10 or 20? Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, Ricky, hell of a day, but yeah, if he freaking kept some bogeys off the board, he would have gone off. Hammer Ricky bogeys over. I'm not sure what the props are going to be at, right? Like, I don't know. If he's at like 4 bogeys, then no. But if he's at like 2.5 bogeys, then maybe boss, bro. So it kind of depends. Tee times are out. Cool. Let me check it out. Let's see. And I'm assuming we were pretty spot on with the projections there. Let's see. Where is Colin Morikawa? He's actually teeing off at noon. So these even par guys are actually even teeing off later than I expected. Thank God they're not starting until 9:30. I get to sleep in a little bit. Look at that. That's beautiful. You guys over there on the East Coast are going to have to wait till noon, 12:30 to watch any golf. That's kind of rough for you guys over there. I'm pretty happy we're over here right now. And the last guys are teeing off at 3:40 p.m. That means that they're going to be in some nasty conditions, right? That course is going to have like almost the entire day to bake out. They're going to be finishing their round at like 7:30, 8 p.m. In fact, guys, I'm not even going to be home at this time tomorrow. It's going to be a real late live stream for Sunday. I can just tell you that right now based on like when these guys are teeing off. We'll get some primetime golf, but it's like they purposely pushed back. And honestly, that's exactly what they did here, guys. They pushed back the start time so that they can make the course harder. That's 100,000%. what they've done here. Because if you remember, a lot of these projections were calling for it to clear up like right around 9 a.m., right? If we go over here to the HRRR model, for example, right? Actually, maybe it's the GFS. Yeah, right. GFS calling for pretty sunny conditions early. I don't know. Most of them, right? Look at this one, right? This is the one I was talking about, this ECM model, right around like 9 a.m. They're calling for it to clear up. Just if it feels like that was on purpose. And if it was, hat tip to you, PGA. That's or you should say USPGA. That seems like the way to take this on there. So let's talk through some strategy here. Out by yourself at 9:33. Okay. Yeah, I get to sleep in. That's huge. Don't get you started on the Discord. Oh, I know, Harley. What's up, bro? You look burnt. Probably am. Was out there all day. Do I have a decky lean on or a lean on decky or Fleetwood? Sorry about that. I would say Hideki, because if you look at Fleetwood's ball striking stats, they're like popping like crazy right now. But Decky's hitting, pretty well on approach. And I'd probably go Decky. Not to blow smoke up your ass, but this has been one of your best streams to date. Appreciate that, boss. Hit the like button, boys, right? If it's one of my better streams, come on. Let's get those numbers up. They're still weak. Boss says you like playing 2 3-mans on Underdog. Yeah, I'm not a huge 3-man guy. Check out Decky's stats today. Yeah, I did. Really good on approach, right? I know actually those were event stats. So I guess we'll look at his stats from today. Yeah, 5 strokes on approach just today. What was Fleetwood at today? Fleetwood was better round 1. If you look at the round 1 stats, actually, where the hell's Fleetwood at? I was very certain that he played well. Okay, so he gained 1.8 strokes, which is still good, but it's not 5.2 from Hideki. And of course, he lost 2.7 with the putter. Oh yeah, I have to mention this too. I saw Hideki out there today for most of his round. He was looking at his putter after like every single shot. Every time it hit a putt and he would miss it, he was just like staring at the putter. Kelly Criterion, of course. That's what I used to use to do my unit sizing when I had a smaller bankroll. When the Kelly Criterion bet was like less than my max on sites. But now my Kelly Criterion bet would be higher than what I can bet on any site. So it's just, it kind of like fucks it off. 6 p.m. starting UK. Jesus. Yeah, exactly. To let that marine layer wear off, I think it's genius. I mean, that's why boards are taking forever. It might be. Honestly, that's gonna affect play huge. 3:30 a.m. Oh boy. Just getting in here. Does anyone else think Rory gets it done this week? I kind of hope so, Bryson. I played him in my main slate stuff, so I wouldn't hate it. So in terms of props, guys, we still don't have a board. I've been trying to delay this as much as humanly possible, right? Kind of been trying to stall here a little bit to see if we'd get a board. Doesn't look like it's going to happen. Here's what we're working with. If you're going to take any supportive stance tomorrow, guys, it needs to be early. It needs to be somebody in like the first 2, maybe 2.5 hours of tee times. After that, you're going to have guys that maybe go under their projections. And again, this is assuming that the board is kind of consistently priced. This is assuming that we're not seeing like a 2-stroke difference between the guys going off early and late. If I was making projections, that's kind of what I would do, right? I would post the guys going out early at slightly better numbers than the guys going out late, which kind of seems backwards, right? Because the guys going up early aren't playing as well. But what we saw, I think it was at least a shot and a half difference today between the two waves, right? It was more than that. It was about a shot and a half difference between the two waves there. Tomorrow, it's going to be the same, if not a little bit higher. And we probably want to take advantage of that. And if that's not baked into the projections, then we should take advantage of that. If they are baked into the projections, which is also a possibility, right? These lines makers aren't complete doofuses. They're kind of doofuses. They are doofuses sometimes, but more often than not, they're not that bad at what they do. If they go out there, they account for that. It's going to be all about stats, right? Taking ball strikers, right? Guys that are hitting the ball well, that have some sort of improvement, or I should say room for improvement with the flat stick. I don't know. It all depends on the pricing, right? If you're going to take fades, take the fades on the late players. If you're going to fade anyone going out early, right? Make sure there's somebody that's maybe prone to getting a little bit frustrated or prone to ejecting themselves from golf tournaments. It's your typical Saturday slate. Usually on Underdog, again, I'm just kind of hoping they post a board here while I'm kind of just rambling BS here. I'm hoping they post some slapdicks, right? So I'm hoping they post like amateurs, like let's say a Ben Carr on the board or something, or I don't know, they're post Sam Bennett, I'm sure, right? They've posted Sam Bennett on Prize Picks the first few days. Maybe we get Sam Bennett on Underdog tomorrow, right? And if we get a Sam Bennett prop, I think the kid's great and all. I think he's going to have a future on the tour. Maybe you fade him, right? Worst conditions. He's never been there before in a major. He played decently at the PGA the first 2-3 rounds and then fell apart there on the weekend. You're probably going to see the same thing here this week. Where are we at? Don't hold out on your KBO picks. Oh boy. Yeah, I've never done KBO picks. And if you're saying that because my balance is higher in the top right, I did put in a few little side bits today on CSGO, which I refuse to share. Let's see what's KBO got going on. I've never bet a KBO pro in my life. But they have all the same stuff you would do for MLB, huh? Like bases, hits, and RBIs. Oh boy. Back in the pandemic days, huh? Betting on random KBO stuff. I had a buddy that used to watch it, used to stay up at like 3, 4 a.m. and watch the games. I used to tail his shit, and he used to chalk like every single time I tailed. So I don't have the great memories of the good old KBO stuff. Over here in Underdog, it's worth noting that the par 3 stuff might be worth attacking. So let's see. Where are the par 3s? So the first par 3 played plus 0.42. The next one played plus 0.51. Let's see. Hole 9, right, was probably one of the easier par 3s. It's the second easiest, I would say, right? Played plus 0.12, plus 0.37 for hole 11. And then the only one that played under par, right, was the hole in one hole, right? Played minus 0.13. So 4 of them played over par, and most of them were well over par. And then one only played slightly under. If we get these par 3 props over here in Underdog, I'm probably trying to take some overs, particularly for PM Wave golfers. If they're at 15 and a half, that is. If they're at 16 strokes, the edge is probably gone, right? That's probably the adequate projection for most of the field. As let's see, plus 0.42, plus 0.51. Yeah, that's plus 0.93 just right there. You got a plus 1.15 right there. Plus, where's the next one? Plus 1.52. The average, wow, look at that. Just for those 4, right? The average was plus 1.52. Overall average, plus 1.39. So looks like we're probably not going to get those par 3 props. But if we happen to, right? And again, these pins, these tee boxes are going to be difficult out there tomorrow. We're going to be hammering the overs on those. On Prize Picks, if they do post greens, they post fairway props. Overs on fairways look pretty good if they're posting guys at like 9.5, 10. For greens regulation, the average is right close to 12. So I don't think we need to overreact in one direction or the other there. It's probably going to be a pretty accurate board. What I mostly want to focus on would be overs for strokes, right? PM guys on both sites. And then maybe, right, if we're trying to take any supportive stances, would be overs on birdies. I would not touch strokes, right? Even for early guys, I don't really want to touch strokes. It'd be over on birdies there. Let's see. 4 amateurs made the cut. Isn't that a lot? I'd say it's a lot compared to most. Who are the 4 amateurs, though? Because like Sam Bennett's not an amateur anymore, right? So you're not counting him. I know Ben Carr did. Ben Carr's an amateur, and he's an absolute stud. He's got Willie Wilcox on the bag, by the way. Oh, that's right. Aldrich did. That's right. Moldovan, he did. Okay. The guy not even from Moldova. And who's the 4th? Gordon Sargent. That is a lot. It means that a lot of the pros played like slapdicks, right? If they're letting these sort of players make the cut. But I've heard really good things about Aldrich. He's a really, really good ball striker, from what I understand. We all know Gordon Sargent is a future superstar, right? He's already signed by TaylorMade. He's hits the ball freaking country mile out there. Tied for 30th right now. Moldovan, I guess, was a little surprising. He's from Uniontown, Ohio. Oh, I've been there before. Actually, not that far from Pittsburgh. And then Ben Carr. You guys probably don't know who Ben Carr is. This kid is, first off, he's a future just PGA Tour player. I can guarantee you he'll at least be a pro, keeping his card probably every single year. Out there in the U.S. Amateur, he went head-to-head with Sam Bennett, nearly beat him. He's gone head-to-head with Ludwig Aberg before and beaten him head-to-head. I know a lot of the other guys get their attention, but Ben Carr is arguably just as good as a lot of those other prospects. So, yeah, surprising, Antonio, but not surprising the 4 that made it. I guess Moldovan would be the most surprising. Quinn Matthews over 6.5 Ks and Paul Skeens over 6.5 Ks in Underdog. Okay. For you saying for the College World Series, I might be about it. Am I a CS:GO guy? I am. I am, especially when I get picks from some of my buddies. They fiend over that shit. Strokes are up on Underdog. Sweet. Look at that. Our patience is paying off. And I am very eager to see what they're posting these at. Oh my god. Yo, guys, they posted lines lower than today. That's wild. We're gonna have to get off stream here and start to go ham on these props, but I've given you a winner the last 2 streams. We're gonna do it again here, okay? Like, I love you, Ricky, but you're going off last. Oh boy, they're gonna make me nuke all overs here. I hate doing it, but that's kind of the board we're getting here. Like these strokes line guys seem significantly too low. All right, I hate to do it. I really do, but we're doing it. This is the stream slip that we're gonna go with. Ricky over and Tony Finau over. Ricky going off late. He'd have to shoot 2 under to kill us. Right today, he shot, I believe, he shot 2 under par today, and he made like 7, 8 birdies. We'll have more difficult pins tomorrow. He's gonna have that Saturday pressure to worry about. I don't see him doing that. I don't think many guys that are going off late are going to get to 2 under par. So, yeah, I imagine Prize Picks is probably going to have Ricky's projection at most like 69.5, at least like a stroke higher. And then this Tony Finau one is, I would say, a little bit more fair. I don't think that this is outrageous to have him at 70 strokes, but I'd have to imagine that Prize Picks probably has him at least 70.5, if not maybe even 71 strokes when it comes to their board. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that when that ends up getting posted. But in general, my sense is that this Underdog board, I mean, even some of these lower tier guys are too low. Like this, it's going to play harder than what we saw today. It's going to bake out, right? It's going to get sunnier earlier, is at least what they're calling for. And then the pins on Saturday, Sunday are supposed to be more difficult. Oh boy. Oh boy. ROM 69. You're saying under 69? I don't know, man. Get yourself on TV on one of the tees if it's near you. Okay, I'll try, Brian. Let's see. What am I wearing tomorrow? It's going to be a white and purple shirt with it's like a bunch of like purple flowers on the shirt. And I'll probably have this hat on. So look out for me. Strokes up, sweet. Who ends with more career wins? Cam Young or Sam Bennett? See, this will get me into trouble, but Cam Young. Luke about to bankrupt Underdog. That or they're going to bankrupt me. If Prize Picks has ROM at 70, I know you're taking the under. Yeah, if they're posting, Prize Picks might have some under opportunities, right? Because honestly, they're the sharper book. I'm assuming that they're going to post guys higher. But yeah, I wouldn't touch it at 69 on Underdog. I think you're going to get a better projection elsewhere. So I would wait. Craig's is a 40-day dry aged tomahawk ribeye, probably north of $100. But if you want to live large, $100 steak's kind of expected. So we'll see. It looks like they had a good bolognese going, so I might get that. We'll have to see. What are my overall thoughts on the course? It looks nice on TV. Great on TV, Antonio. Not good in practicality. The walking the course aspect is horrible. You can hardly see any of the greens out there, so you never know if a putt's going to go in. It's a hike. I walked 30 flights of stairs yesterday. I nearly walked 10 miles too. It's rough in person. Now on TV, I think for a lot of you guys at home, you're probably enjoying it. It's the perfect course for that. But if you're trying to watch these guys or specifically follow a group around LACC, it's nearly impossible. Going from hole 8 to hole 9 takes you about 40 minutes. So by the time you get to hole number 9, the guys are going to be finished. There's a couple other scenarios like that. Like holes 1 to 2, you can't walk from hole number 1 to hole 2. You have to walk from like hole 1 to hole 17. You have to walk down 17 to get to hole number 2. It's a headache. We'll just say that. In person, it's a headache. Great course in person. Ricky plus 115 to go over 71.5. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? 3 strokes higher. Oh boy. Bring up the screenshot I sent you. Yes, I do want to see that. Thank you. I forgot about you sending that before, Travis. Thank you for reminding me. Let's do that right now. Perfect. And let me share my screen, show you guys what we're working with here. T. Swaney, by the way, he's the MVP. He is the absolute bomb when it comes to doing this prop stuff for us. It's a huge help for me. It's a huge help for all of us out there when we're doing our props. So this is what we got for today. Left side scoring average, right, was about a stroke and a half easier than what we saw in the afternoon. But this is the important part down here. The birdie or better percentage went down about 2%, which isn't that big of a jump, right? But look at the jump in bogey percentage. The jump in bogey percentage went from 23.4 to 28.1%. That means that there's a lot more mistakes to be had out there in the afternoon, but it's not impossible to make birdies. So like I said, if we're going to attack any sort of props, we want to take birdies early, right? Guys that are maybe the first 2 hours of tee times for overs. And I think in the afternoon, right, overs on strokes, right, that's pretty obvious, right, nearly a 73 average. But overs on bogeys, like specific, I mean, there was a massive jump, right, in that bogey rate. Might be what we want to focus on the most there. At the bottom, we have the field averages, which I'll go ahead and multiply these out, give you guys like actual numbers here. So for the bogeys in the afternoon, keep this in mind, there were 5.06 made on average. Wow. Okay. I've never seen an average that high before. That is nuts. The birdie average was 2.82 in the afternoon. The birdie average in the morning, let's see. What was that? 3.15. So the birdie average dropped about 0.3, and then it went up a shit ton in terms of your bogey average. Thank you for that, T20. That's huge. You can look at some of the hole-by-hole stuff up at the top there. You can see even some of the really easy holes just got really difficult in the afternoon. It was an absolute carnage out there. Did we get a prize picks board back? Is the question here. Stall for 10 minutes, prize picks slow. Yeah, I'm hoping so. I'm doing my best here. What are your thoughts on waves tomorrow? AM wave for sure, but they're starting a little bit later, Antonio. So there's not going to be as big an edge in my opinion. But yeah, the earlier going off, probably the better. Short par threes or 300-yard par threes. Yeah, and there's only like two shorter ones. One of them is like 180 yards. I don't even think it's that short. And the really short par three, if they use the back pin, is going to be like nearly impossible. And even if they use the 70-yard pin there in the front right, that's going to suck too. Yeah, they'll post them back up. Short for you and danger everywhere around the green. Yep. 69 for Ricky and 70.5 for Tino. Oh, wow. They're already bumping shit. Yep. It doesn't surprise me. They watch these streams, and I know for a fact they watch these streams because they've complimented my content before, which appreciate that, by the way, Red Mamba. But I wish you wouldn't bump props. Hey, no one's perfect, right? Everyone's going to have their gripe with something, so cheers to that. Let's see. Underdog up the strokes on Ricky and Finau. Yeah, I got mine in, so I try to empathize with you guys, but I got mine in. Roy's 68.5. I don't know. I can't give you guys every slip that I'm doing on here, right? I gotta get off here and do stuff for my Patreon page, but like, we'll leave that. The Rory over probably looks pretty good too. We're gonna end the stream at this point, though, guys. I know I was stalling enough to try and see if we can get a prize picks board, but who knows how long they're actually going to take with that. I got to get to dinner out here at some point. I know a bunch of you guys are probably tired over there on the East Coast. Need to get the props in before you go to bed. So we'll get to work. We'll get that in for you guys and hopefully cash out here for Saturday's slate. So appreciate all the support. Again, thank you guys for stopping by, hanging out with me here on a Saturday night. Hit that like button on the way out if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel too so you don't miss any of the content in the future. If you enjoyed this live stream, you felt it was helpful for your process tomorrow, well, make sure you stop on by because we'll be doing the same thing for Sunday, albeit probably a little bit later, right? Like I said, we might be finishing the round like a half an hour to an hour later than what we saw for today, but we'll still be going live. So for you late owls, we'll have you covered out there. Best of luck. Let's cash out a few slips, maybe take down a GPP or two and get this money, boys.